YouTube, it's your favorite awkward girl on the internet. Today's video is going to be a little bit different, of course you're going to be able to see the title at this point. It's about pregnancy and panic disorder, which, and my story with it. Whenever I was going through all of this, I tried to look on the internet to see what I could find, especially YouTube, to see if there was anyone else's stories that I could relate to, or even just, at that point in time I had no idea what was going on, and I wanted someone to relate to, and that was very hard to find. So I figured, why not put my story out there, and hopefully it can help some of you if you're dealing with anything similar to this. So while I was pregnant, I was diagnosed with panic disorder and agoraphobia, and that's where this video is kind of stemming from. So a little bit of backstory. I got pregnant when I was 22, and I have always had problems with my heart. I had an ASD, which is an atrial septal defect. I believe that's right. Which is basically a hole in my heart. They plugged it up when I was a junior in high school, but since then I've always kind of been predisposed to heart palpitations. I normally get them if I have caffeine or if I'm really stressed or under a lot of stress. So just putting that back there, my husband and I got married when I was 21, and by this point we had decided that, you know, we were ready to have a baby. We were both in great careers, we had great jobs, and we were in a great point in our life, and so we decided that we wanted to, you know, extend our family. So we decided to stop trying to not try to have a baby, if that makes any sense. And so we got pregnant the first month that we stopped trying, which was awesome. I was so excited. And the reason I want to stress this, that my son was planned, is that a lot of the times whenever you put pregnancy and anxiety together, it's often looked at as, oh, you weren't ready to be a mother, or oh, you're not ready for this, or oh, you don't want to have a baby. And that's not the case at all. RJ was planned, and we were super excited whenever I got the positive pregnancy test. And so I found out I was pregnant at about 4 weeks, and I of course was super excited. And where I live, you couldn't see your doctor until you were at least 6 weeks pregnant. From the very get-go, like after I found out I was pregnant, I started having heart palpitations, which I hadn't had in a while, which was a little strange. And I guess at this point is where the anxiety aspect comes into it. So as I was getting these heart palpitations, I also noticed that I was having a lot of adrenaline rush when driving. That's the only way I can explain it, because like it's fear, of course, it's anxiety, but at the time I had no idea what it was. And so when I would drive, I would just get shaky, and like it was just horrible. It made me feel horrible. And so that was the first point I noticed something was different, something was off. And so I stopped driving. My husband started driving me to work, which wasn't really a problem. It didn't interrupt our lives too much. But then I ended up going to the hospital for my heart palpitations. Of course, I was scared because I was pregnant and I didn't want something to be wrong, so we went to the hospital, and we went to the hospital many times for this, and they told me, nothing's wrong, you're fine, which was hard to take because I felt like something was wrong. It felt awful. And so I, of course, had my first OB appointment. Everything was exciting. Things were going okay. It didn't all go downhill yet. But then at some point, I started having more heart palpitations. And I remember clearly one point where at work I had, I didn't know it at the time, but I had a severe panic attack. My heart skipped a beat. That's how I explain my heart palpitations, that it feels like it skips a beat. And my heart started racing, like pure adrenaline, fear. My body was shaking, and they called the ambulance, and they came and checked on me. It was this big ordeal, and they sent me home. They said everything was fine, I wasn't having a heart attack, which it felt like I was, but you know, whatever. And so at that point was when things started going downhill. First it started with not being able to drive, then I couldn't go to work, then, and it's so very hard to like put this all in a time frame because I feel like it all happened so fast. And I'm sorry if this video is kind of jumbled everywhere, but I mean, at this point I'm telling you all about the anxiety point of my pregnancy. But so I stopped going to work. I ended up having to quit my job because I couldn't go to work, which one of the reasons why I couldn't go to work is because we lived on the 3rd floor of an apartment building, and every time I would go up and down the stairs, my heart would skip and skip and skip. Which, if you've ever had heart palpitations, it's like, it takes the breath out of you, at least it does for me. People have different kinds of heart palpitations, but it was horrible. And so like I began to form anxiety around that, which again, at the time I had no idea that it was anxiety. But so like even just the thought of leaving my house gave me a panic attack. And then it got to the point where I couldn't be home alone. Like I had to have someone with me at all times. And so that put my husband in a very precarious situation. He ended up eventually having to leave his job as well. I mean, I hate to say it, but my pregnancy was literally the worst year of my life. It was the lowest point of my life, and I wouldn't wish it on anyone. And it was very hard to accept that because I was so excited to be pregnant and so excited to become a mom, and this was supposed to be the happiest time of my life. You know, I didn't get the normal pregnancy symptoms like nausea or things like that, but I got crippling anxiety and panic attacks. So it got to a point I couldn't be home alone, and then it got to a point where I couldn't be in the room alone. And so like so many other things caused me to have panic attacks. I couldn't shower. Like I could not shower. I could not walk. I couldn't go outside. Being outside in the heat gave me panic attacks. I couldn't go in the car. Not only could I not drive, but I couldn't be in a car. I couldn't stand. Like I was literally bedridden by my anxiety. And so my panic attacks, the way they were for me, and again, different for everybody, but they were paralyzing. Like my whole body would just freeze up, but at the same time I would be shaking uncontrollably. My heart would be racing so fast. Like it felt like I just run a marathon, like physically, like so fast. And like I couldn't move. And this was happening multiple times a day. And so it got to a point in my pregnancy where like this was detrimental to not only myself but for my baby. And I'm trying to think, it was after my first trimester whenever we finally began to realize that this was anxiety. My OB had referred me to a psychiatrist, specifically for pregnant women. And I was diagnosed with acute panic disorder and agoraphobia. So of course the panic disorder was because of the panic attacks, but the agoraphobia is, at least from what I could understand, was that anything that gave me a panic attack, I then became afraid of, and so I would not do anything that had given me a panic attack before. Such as taking a shower, standing up, leaving my house, all of those things. And so with that, they put me on medication. They put me on Zoloft, which is technically an antidepressant, but they use it as a also anxiety medication. It can be used as anxiety medication. And they also put me on metoprolol for my heart palpitations. Now, this was something that I had a really hard time accepting, because when I got pregnant, I had this thought that I was going to be like supernatural. Nothing was going to go into my body that could potentially harm my baby. I was going to eat all organic and all that kind of stuff, but at this point I was desperate. I was so desperate just to feel normal again. And so they ended up putting me on medication, and that was really hard to accept. And at this point, I had to have been, it was after my first trimester, so I want to say maybe 15 to 16 weeks, they put me on the medication, and they also gave me Ativan for my panic attacks if I needed it in emergencies. I rarely took that, and if I did take it, I would cut it up into quarters and then take a quarter of it, because I was just, me and medication, like, not friends. Like, I don't like to take medication if I don't have to. So at this point in time, they put me on the medication, and not soon after, we had to move out of our apartment, which I feel like I went through this not really fast, because I mean, this video is already 11 minutes long, but so, like, it was literally, my life in that apartment was, it was horrible. It was torture. There was a point where I had to go to an OB appointment, and it was during a tropical storm, and my mom ended up having to come and stay with me the whole summer, basically, because my husband had to work to pay the bills. So when he couldn't stay home with me, my mom would stay home with me. And it was during a tropical storm, and I had to get to an OB appointment. And I panicked so bad, but I had to go. And so I crawled on my hands and knees in the middle of a tropical storm down 3 flights of stairs to get into my mother's car so that we could go to a OB appointment. And I felt like that was the lowest point of my life. Like, a pregnant woman crawling on her hands and knees down the stairs just to go to the doctor. Like, it was, and it sounds so ridiculous. Like, why on earth would you be afraid to leave your apartment to walk to go down the stairs? And it, like, even then I knew it was ridiculous, but it caused something so physical in my body to happen that it was torture. It was the worst time in my life. And so they put me on the medication, and at this point we had to move out of our apartment because my husband had to quit his job. And so we ended up moving back in with his parents down in the country. And so at this point things started to get better, and I don't know if it's because I got out of that apartment or if it was because of the medication. I believe it was a little bit of both. But things started to get easier. I could walk. I could go outside eventually. I still had some fear of being alone, but it was getting better. And so, although I hated the idea of going on medication, I believe it sincerely helped me. At that point, my anxiety was not only hurting me, but it was hurting my baby. That's not a good environment to be in. A pregnant woman should not have to crawl on her hands and knees down 3 flights of stairs. So things started to get better, and the craziest thing is that after I had my son RJ, things have, like, most of all of the symptoms have disappeared. The only lingering effects of my anxiety and panic disorder is I still have a lot of anxiety driving. Being in the car, totally fine. You know, everything else is completely fine. I can, you know, like, exercise and walk and do all kinds of things, but driving still makes me panic. And I think the only reason it does is because I know that I'm prone to panic attacks now, and my biggest fear would be to have a panic attack while driving with my son in the car. So, that was pretty much my pregnancy. It was horrible, and I wouldn't wish anxiety and panic on anyone. A lot of people look at how, like, it's a mind thing, and they're like, oh, just snap out of it, like, it's okay, it's not something to be afraid of, just get over it. But with mine, my panic attacks were so physical, and that's the thing I stress to people the most, is that, like, it took a physical effect over my body. I could not move. My whole body would shake, and, like, my heart would race so fast. Like, it's so hard to explain. I mean, it seems easy to explain, but, like, you'll never understand until you go through it. It's nothing that I could control. If I could control it, I would be fine. I wanted to be pregnant so bad. I wanted to go out and wear the cute maternity clothes and and go shopping for toys and for baby stuff, and I could do none of that. I was bedridden for almost my entire pregnancy. In the last 3 months of my pregnancy, I was medically bedridden. So it was literally the worst point in my life. And the reason I wanted to share this is because, like, whenever I was going through it all, I tried to find somebody who had gone through the same thing as me, and I couldn't find anybody. And it made me feel very, very, very alone, especially with something that a lot of people don't understand. And a lot of people knew that I had a rough pregnancy, but a lot of people don't know the extent of it. Only like close family members know. And so I figured I would share this because, yes, anxiety is it's a mental disease. Like, it's not, I don't know, like, it's just, people look down on it so much, but it was so physical for me. It changed my life in the worst way possible. I was trapped in my apartment. I was trapped. I was literally trapped by my body and my brain. So I wanted to make this video so that if any of you have ever experienced not only anxiety and panic attack, but have been pregnant while this has happened, I want you to know that you're not alone. Not at all. And that people go through this, and people also make it out on the other side. My son is now almost 2 years old, and he's the best thing that has ever happened to me. And, you know, sometimes I think that all of that happened so that I could see what a miracle my son is. He's the best thing that has ever happened to me, and I know that I went through everything that I went through so that I could see just how beautiful he is. But yeah, so I'm like pretty much, for the most part, anxiety free. I mean, compared to what the low that I hit, I'm at my like all-time high now. And of course I wish I could drive, and there are plenty of times where like I just get angry at myself because I know something so simple and something that most adults can do easily is something that I struggle with. And I live in Texas, so we drive everywhere. It's not like I have access to public transportation. But yeah, so I figured I'd make this video. My nose is running now. And I want you guys to know that you can make it out on the other side. I'm completely happy now. I do still take the Zoloft, but I don't take it nearly as much as I used to. Now, because what I was taking was 50 milligrams a day. And now I take about 50 milligrams every 2 to 3 days. And mostly the only reason I still take it is just because when I stop, I get the withdrawal effect. And I kind of need to not go through withdrawal because I have a kid to take care of. But I'm looking into seeing a doctor about them monitoring me while I come off of the medication, because I believe that I'm okay now. But yeah, this is a really rambly video, and I feel like there are things I probably missed and things that I probably should have covered, but I'm going to, I guess, go ahead and end the video. Thank you guys for watching this. If you made it this far, hi, hello, excuse me, thank you for watching. In the comments below, let me know if you've ever dealt with anxiety. Not only will it help me to see, of course I know that I'm not alone, but it'll help others whenever they find this video, hear your stories and whatnot. But thank you guys for watching. I'll see you next time. Bye. Also guys, there's so much that I haven't gone into, like so much more that happened that I haven't gone into, and so if you want to hear more about it, just let me know and I can go into more detail. But yeah, so if you're curious about that, let me know. But other than that, see y'all next time.